Good afternoon. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email Marketing. My guest today, Ronald Kimmons, co-founder of Wingfire Media. I love that name. Ronald,
Thanks.
welcome. Tell us a bit about your company.
Thanks. So yeah, we got started back in 2016. It's me and my wife. We are partners, and we started as kind of a generalist digital marketing firm. We got into ads. We actually helped local businesses for a while, and we quickly realized that what we were really good at was helping people with info products. So usually coaches, course creators, or also people with some people with software tools, that sort of thing. People with info products. That's where we really shine, and also helping them to do launch campaigns for those info products. And yeah, so like right now, all of our clients are people who have an info product of some kind, usually a course or a like video series, courses, coaching programs, things like that.
So what makes a good candidate for you guys fundamentally for Wingfire, but for a launch approach?
So when I talk about launch, and you see, and of course, when we say launch, we're referring to Jeff Walker style launch. Like Jeff Walker wrote a book called Launch. It's kind of he's really been influential in the industry. And I tend to use language a little different from what he does, but it's the same basic principles. I talk about alpha launch and beta launch and then a main launch. And people who come to us, they typically are people who have done an alpha or beta launch and have sold their offer a little bit to their email list or to their social media following. And so it's been tested somewhere on the market. It's something that has sold, and they've gotten some feedback to help them to refine it. And now they want to take it big time.
Okay.
And we help them to do that. And we help them, we pick it up from there, and we help them in the main launch. And we can walk people through the earlier phases of alpha launch, beta launch, but the main launch is really where we shine, and that's where we provide the most value.
I ran across one of many, I'm sure, videos by Jeff Walker, who you mentioned. Must have been 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm looking at the footage. I think it was at his house. He was talking about his house, and look, I'm like, that's the peak right above my mom's house in Durango. And sure enough, Durango, Colorado.
Yeah, I remember him talking about in the book, talking about being in Colorado.
Yeah, that's my hometown, right? That's my hometown. So it's like, okay, good taste.
Yeah, one of the examples that he uses in his book is he wanted to buy a house there.
Yeah,
and he needed 6 digits to do it. He didn't have it, and he's like, "Well, I have a list." And so he did a launch to his email list, got the money, and bought the house.
To get his house.
That's the power of launches. That's why they're awesome.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a launch is a launch, and you mentioned alpha, beta, main launch, but I mean, walk people through some of the basic concepts that distinguish a launch from, let's say, content marketing and campaigns that run forever and ever. Like there's a time-bound element to it, right?
Yeah. So there are three main characteristics of a launch campaign. First, you have a new offer, and it could be something that you've offered in the past, but it's just like an updated version with maybe new features or something. But there has to be something new about it that you're launching.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Second, this is true for a main launch. Not for alpha or beta launch, but for main launch, it needs to mix both organic marketing and paid traffic. So you have both your social media following and your email campaigns and ads.
Okay.
And you're doing these things together, and it's part of a concerted effort. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is that it comes in a limited time period. Like usually, when the way we do our launches, everything builds up to this presentation that is either a challenge, multi-day challenge or a webinar. And at the end of that, the client will pitch. They'll pitch their offer, their course, whatever it is.
Okay.
And then people have a certain amount of time to take that offer. Usually it's between 3 and 10 days.
Yep. Okay.
And when that time has passed, the offer's gone. Like there may be something similar in the future, but it may cost more. It may have fewer features, or something like that. It's that we tell our clients, stick to that. Don't create false scarcity. This is a limited time offer,
Mm-hmm.
and when this time is over, it's done. You're not offering it anymore.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, those are the main three characteristics of a launch.
And what? How do I phrase this well? One of the things about information products is the creative work for that is up front. It's front loaded, right? It's not necessarily something you're doing because the client said, "Hey, I've got a question, or I've got a media problem."
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I've created courses, for example. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And then you end up with a bunch of words, a bunch of writing, a bunch of video footage, a bunch of graphics, whatever, in the can. And then nature of the internet, nature of digital distribution, copies of that don't have a huge cost basis. It's like software, right? All your money's in the development stage of stuff. And yet a time-bound methodology and scarcity, which you mentioned, sort of say, this thing that could be copied from the server, hypothetically for free forever, has a time-bound nature. That must be because that's what gets audiences to move.
Yeah, and see, and one of the things, and people get wise to marketing tricks over time, and people can see right through this very false scarcity narrative where they say, act now or it's over, and they can see there's no reason for that boundary of time to be there. But that's why we typically advise our clients to create a reason for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Like if this is a course, for example, there's no marginal cost there. You can sell that to as many people as you want. But as a bonus, maybe add a one-on-one consultation.
Right.
And that's something that you're not going to be able to offer to everyone until the end
scarcity.
of time.
Yeah.
And that is your scarcity. So look, I'm not willing to keep doing this forever. Yeah. So I'm gonna offer this to everyone who buys within this period. Yep. And after that, I'm not doing it anymore. You can still buy the course, but I'm not doing the one-on-one consultation anymore. That sort of thing. Yeah. And so you create a real reason for it, and you make it feasible, and you make it rational, and people will identify with it and say, "Oh yeah, I would totally be like that too. I wouldn't want to keep doing that forever." But to offer it as a special thing for people who took the offer in the launch period, then that's a good idea.
Right. And I would assume that the emotional load of the factors that are creating scarcity play in a bunch. I mean, decisions tend to be, what's the phrase, emotionally driven, rationally justified.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I mean, and I mean, buying is always an emotional decision. People will just. I've seen people describe themselves as what's the word, as the word just left my mind, as I can't speak English anymore.
It'll come back to you.
The people describe themselves as people who do not respond to kind of low level emotional innuendo and things like that. But the thing is that everyone, you're talking about CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, for everyone, buying is an emotional decision. It can be backed with rational reasons, sure, but it's always going to be an emotional decision. There's always going to be emotion there because you buy because you want someone to solve a problem.
Yep. And
that problem has an emotional influence on you,
Right.
And also to buy is to, in the end, regardless of rational reasons, to buy is to trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're always going to be extending trust to this person you're giving money to.
Yeah.
And the decision to extend trust, while it may be rationally valid, it's always going to be an emotional decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in marketing, there should be a rational basis for everything, but there should also be, you have to realize that it's always going to be emotional, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Because honestly, without emotion, none of us do anything in life.
Right.
Like in the end, emotional motivation is what gets us to do all the things that we do.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's just that we shouldn't be completely dominated by our emotions. That's all.
Right. And I suspect, I'm curious to your opinion of this. Are people ever more guarded about their emotional capital and a little ever more cautious about the levers that move them, because we're certainly bombarded a lot.
Yeah, and we're bombarded a lot, and people. And there's a lot. There's a lot of people, on the internet who promise the world
Yeah,
and deliver nothing.
yeah, yeah,
We and I like to see that. Actually, I like to see that people are a little guarded,
yeah.
because it shows me that they're more rational. They're a little more rational.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want rational clients.
Right.
I was in talks with someone just recently who was looking to do a launch campaign,
Mm-hmm.
and they saw some of our case studies and results and things, and they liked that, but they're a little hesitant. They were talking to some other people, and they said, well, like someone else would tell them, well, we could do a launch in a month. And they came to us, they say, hey, they said they can do the whole thing in a month. And we told them, look, we've actually done a launch in a month before, and that's the only launch that we've ever done that didn't go well.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And so I said, look, I mean, maybe they can, but I'm not going to tell you that we can, because from where we stand, that's not a good idea to try to get the whole thing done in a month.
Right.
And yeah, so they took that and they digested it. And about a week later, they came back to me and said, hey, I want to work with you. Because this was a rational person who
Mm-hmm.
realizes that there's a lot of people out there
Yeah.
who are just willing to say whatever to get a sale. And so I like to see people who can see through, the very thin
Yeah.
veil of cheap marketing.
Yeah. Of which there's a lot, right?
Yeah.
You need blast filters. I used to be I spent some time doing custom explainer videos or early on, before very many companies were doing that, and we had a very sound methodology for that. And I got picky about clients, and I got picky about what was realistically possible. Very much what you were saying. And we were like, we need this in 3 weeks. I'm like, no. It's like, sorry, call somebody else. But you want it done well, it's going to take time, because you actually don't know what you want to get across to people. The hardest part's going to be you getting your own clarity, which I'll help you with. But if you want it in 3 weeks, yeah, go find somebody else, right? I can't do a good job. I'm not going to do the job, kind of a thing. Yeah. Now, coaches are an interesting. Seems like a boom niche. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing, because there's a lot of people trying to get into it.
Yep.
Because the barrier to entry is low.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But there's demand.
Yeah.
There's demand. It's a significant demand, and the business is there.
Interesting.
So yeah, is it a boom industry? Yes.
Interesting.
I also see a lot of people struggling, either because they can't invest in marketing, or because they don't have certification or something like that. But yeah, I would definitely say it's a boom industry. And yet I see a lot of people struggling in it, even though it's a boom industry, because there's a lot of differentiation between people who know what they're doing and can invest, and people who don't know what they're doing and don't invest.
Right. And who know, right, the know what they're doing part. I'm a little sanguine about coaches who don't have a track record. It's like, if you never played football and you're going to be a football coach, you're going to have to explain that one to me, because I find it really hard to swallow. I'm going to coach entrepreneurs, and I've never built a company.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I just don't think so.
Yeah. And I mean, you can say, like, for example, I mean, if you have a coach, an Olympic athlete with a coach, and that coach did not win Olympic gold himself, but he probably was an athlete at some point, and he probably is a better coach than that athlete of his that he coached, who went and won the gold. In the end, it's different to coach and to do it are different, but there should be some basis there in that specialization. I mean, if they're coming out from, if it's all theoretical, then like this is not something someone you should work with.
No, not at all. It's just I've really noticed the rise of coaches and the sort of coaching as a space in the last less than a decade. Seems like, just like up it goes like this. And you're right. And I'm going to imagine the pandemic kind of accelerated that. Yeah.
And it's attractive to be able to work from home, having clients through, through Zoom chats and things like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot about the industry that is attractive to people, and you can really help people. Coaches, life coaches, business coaches, the ones who are good really do help people a lot. A lot. There's a lot of value that can be delivered there. And that feeling of, I want to help people for a living. That's a very big motivator. Yeah. But yeah, it is a completely unregulated industry.
True.
And we're seeing the kind of little problems that you're talking about, like that's what happens whenever you have an unregulated industry.
Yeah. I've always sought out unregulated industries myself because that's kind of where the edge tends to be. But it's like the frontier. Guys in the frontier were a mix of cowboys and charlatans and snake oil salesmen. The same thing happens every time there's a new frontier. It's like just the nature.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. Yeah.
Human nature, yeah. I guess. Yeah. Now let's go in a different direction. How many languages do you actually speak?
Oh, well, there's different levels of proficiency.
I get that.
I'm fluent in Mandarin.
Fluent in Mandarin.
Yeah,
and Spanish as well.
Yeah, it used to be that I could sit in meetings and make notes in Chinese.
Wow.
Chinese characters. I can't do that so much now.
Yeah.
I'm a little out of practice, but I did do that at one point. Spanish is pretty good. I lived in Chile for a year, and I picked that up pretty well.
Yeah.
Portuguese too. Like I read books in Portuguese.
Wow.
My wife is Brazilian. She's a little impatient about talking to me in Portuguese. She's like, just talk to me in English. Because her English, of course, is stellar. Whereas my Portuguese is still improving. And my recent over the past couple of years, what I've really been working on is Indonesian. I've been learning Indonesian.
I noticed that on your LinkedIn profile.
And
it's a big.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
It's as Asian languages go, it's relatively easy.
Yeah.
Like compared to Mandarin.
Yeah.
It's like it's not tonal. You can use it's just Latin letters. It's totally phonetic. So it's relatively easy.
Wow.
In that regard, I still haven't been to Indonesia. I want to go.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
But it's all self-taught. But and I read books and take language lessons and stuff. And for a while there, I've been having weekly conversations with someone in Indonesia to practice.
Yeah.
But because that's really the only way to learn. You have to converse with people.
You have to converse with people. What do you think of tools like Duolingo for acquiring or polishing a language?
Duolingo? I've used Duolingo. Mm-hmm. I like it. I wouldn't say that it's my favorite tool like that. It's definitely useful.
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps you to make a nice little foundation.
Yeah.
But if you really want to learn, you got to find someone to speak to you.
Yeah.
You have to regularly have conversations. And I think that combined with 2 or 3 times a week going and talking to someone for like half an hour, you can definitely learn a language that way. It's just that I don't think you can rely on Duolingo by itself, but or anything similar. But it definitely helps. It definitely helps to get that foundation in place.
Interesting. I moved my whole family to the south of France for 6 months a decade ago. But unfortunately, my wife's pretty darn fluent, and we all leaned on her so much that the other 3 of us didn't do so well in terms of acquiring any French. Like, we'd probably done better if we weren't going, hey, what did he say?
Yeah. It helps to be, basically to jump in the water and have to swim for yourself.
Yeah. And to have to get it done.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Have to figure out how to get it across and refine and use the feedback loops and all that other stuff. No, I was really struck by that. So, so many of us in the U.S. don't acquire additional languages, and points to you for doing it. And Chinese, not an easy lift to learn from.
Yeah. After learning Chinese, I was like, anything else is going to be easy.
Yeah.
So
Mandarin is tonal, correct?
Yeah. It's tonal.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I've also studied Arabic a bit. I actually studied Arabic for 2 semesters before I went to Taiwan, and I haven't really gotten back to it.
Yeah.
But I think I can safely say I think of all the languages that I've studied, Arabic is the hardest. It's harder than Mandarin, even though it's not tonal. I read
somewhere that Japanese is extremely difficult.
Yeah, I know Japanese is hard.
Is it? Yeah.
It's really hard. I haven't really studied Japanese either, but the thing, like with Mandarin, what I tell people, it's like Mandarin is like comparing Mandarin and Arabic. Mandarin is like you get to a wall, and that is tones and characters.
Mm-hmm.
But once you can get over that,
Mm-hmm.
it's not so hard after that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Arabic, it's like this slope that continues forever, where it just keeps being difficult the whole time.
Interesting.
Because like Arabic grammar is just wild.
Yeah. Structurally, you mean?
Yeah, it's structured. Yeah, the structure of the language is wild. But like in Chinese is relatively, the structure is different from English, so you have to learn that.
But it's relatively consistent.
It's not really complex.
Okay.
Whereas Arabic is very complex. Like there's no for example, there's no verb conjugation in Mandarin.
Okay.
Whereas in Arabic, you have to conjugate for for male or female. You have to conjugate for singular, dual, and plural for every verb.
Wow.
and then of course all the different time
wow.
Conjugations. Yeah, it's wild. It's pretty wild.
Wow. Now, do you find that skill with languages to be something that's an asset for business, or is that just life and interests at the moment?
Before 2016,
mm-hmm.
I worked for a translation company. That's what I did, and before that, I was a translator.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like I've used it professionally, but since starting this company, it has not been useful at all.
It's not. Okay.
No, but I have ideas for making it useful. Like my next step maybe.
Yeah.
I want I'm things that I'm thinking about are like marketing software tools into other countries and things like that. And,
interesting.
And frankly, some of our clients have been people who needed marketing done in like Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
And so like we've run campaigns in Spanish. We actually run campaigns in Dutch too.
Wow.
But I was not directly doing those myself, so it didn't really help much.
Yeah.
But our team is multilingual, which helps, and yeah, I would like to get more involved especially in Asia, and doing more marketing in Asia in the future. We'll see what develops.
A large percentage of the human race there, so yeah. That's a very good idea. This is a bit of an intersection and maybe an esoteric question, but speaking multiple languages, having lived in other countries as you have, do you think some of the motivation structure principles that underlie a launch would require substantial modification to launch in a different country?
No, like there are many aspects of marketing that change with localization,
mm-hmm.
But it's more a matter of the specific messaging you use.
Okay.
And not the launch structure.
Okay.
Not the launch structure. Like all of the basics of the launch structure, I imagine would just be the same. Right. But there would definitely be, we would definitely need to look closely at the messaging and what things we focus on in the messaging for that culture, because that's where the difference is going.
Sort of a tone, not in the acoustic sense, but just sort of a tone and nuance, not necessarily the skeleton of the thing. Wow, fascinating. I mean, opportunities there. I created a course a good number of years back, and it doesn't get a whole lot of time and attention, but it got some numbers. I think that one's on Udemy. And I get inbound requests fairly regularly from other online course providers. They're like, they clearly go down through the rankings on some of the big ones and then go approach the course owners and say, hey, would you like to list it here as well? And increasingly, those are coming from outside the U.S., those requests, because there's a market. Yeah,
there's market. I was just talking to, I went to an event recently and talked to one of the big names in marketing industry right now, and he said that he licenses his stuff out like to South America, in South America and in other places. Yeah, it's definitely it's a big thing, and there's a lot of money can be had there. It's also something that I think it would be easy to crash and burn. if you don't get the messaging right. And it's really fascinating to look at the marketing failures that have happened over the years by major companies.
Yeah, Chevy.
Trying to go, it's Chevy Nova. Yeah, that's always a funny one. But trying to go into other markets, like there's the one in China. Sorry, that's my child outside the door. I don't know if you can hear her. I have 5 kids, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Like in China, I think it was Pepsi. It's either Coke or Pepsi. I'm pretty sure it's Pepsi.
Right.
They said that.
Ride the Wax Tadpole. Is it that one?
The one I was thinking of was they said that it would bring your ancestors back from the dead, and it's just like, what? Yeah. Like, where did what?
Wow.
But anyway.
Well, and I mean, same true other direction, right? Like I've opened boxes and read the instructions and said, not the first language of the writer, right? And made sense to them. It just didn't translate particularly well to the language I happen to speak, so it's okay. No. I'm a big fan of communicating visually, and I find that helps considerably with cultural obstacles. Although I'm sure there are cultural loadings on visual communication as well. There's not a lot of scholarship on that. That'd be an interesting avenue to pursue. So. Email. Where does email and email lists fit in the world of things you do for clients?
Email is, it's really important. Yeah. You see, and it's important for me to note like how we have evolved as a business. Mm-hmm. In that when we started, we're just like, okay, we do ads. That's what we do. We help people with ads. But we quickly realized that if someone comes to us and asks us to help them with ads, what they're really asking us is to help them with marketing. Mm-hmm. And we've had in instances when clients didn't do so well, in almost every case, the problem was that like, it wasn't that we weren't doing ads well. We were, but we were doing what works and it worked. But then their back end just wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And sometimes maybe they thought that it was. Mm-hmm. They thought they had a good back end, but it just wasn't there. Like I remember at one point we had 2 clients, both named Victoria, and they at the same time they're given the same numbers. Like when you look at the front end at their ads, mm-hmm. looking at their ads, and they're getting very similar numbers, but one of them was making about $60,000 a month, and the other one was barely breaking even. And the difference was that she had a good back-end marketing process and a good sales process, whereas the other one did not. She had emails, but they just weren't really on point, and she wasn't so good on sales calls. Her sales process involved a sales call, and she just it was hard for her to do that. Yeah. And it makes a real difference. It makes a real difference. But yeah, and that's for just ad campaigns, because in a lot of our clients, we just run ads for them. We don't just do launches indefinitely, Yeah. But when we do launches, the launch campaigns involve multiple email campaigns in them. And we have hype campaigns, just getting people, just building up hype, getting people engaged. And then we have registration campaign to get people to register for the webinar or challenge. We have a countdown campaign. Once they've registered, then they continue to get emails counting down, because we don't want them to register and then forget about it. Yeah. So then it counts down. We usually send them emails every day until the day of the event. And then we have the sales series that starts when the event ends. And, it goes for 3 days or 10 days or however long. And then a lot of time we'll also have a follow-up sequence where, after the main phase has ended, and that main offer is not available anymore, but there is still some other offer they can take, then we'll have a follow-up sequence, right, in which they can take that offer. And so it's central. Email marketing is central to launches. There is no launch campaign, and not the way we do it, not the way Jeff Walker does it, without email. I mean, email is absolutely vital. I mean, we're bringing in people with ads. Yeah. But if you don't engage with them on an email, through email campaigns, like, you're going to lose them. They're not going to show up.
It's the common carrier, if you will, right? Yeah. It's the one reliable point, person to person. And
it's funny to me. I've seen people say, "Oh, email marketing is dead." And that's it's just baloney. It's just and I literally I saw and people say this with different aspects of digital marketing a lot. They'll say such and such is dead. Like I saw a forum post from 1995 saying, "Oh, SEO is dead."
Okay.
Whereas all that happened was there'd been some slight change in the market, and they said, "Oh, SEO is dead." No, it's just that digital marketing evolves a lot.
Yeah.
But the basic principles and the basic tools tend to remain the same.
Yeah.
And email marketing, it's gone through a lot of evolution. Like 15 years ago, email marketing 15 years ago was very different from today.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Like we've had the can spam, and there's been a lot of development on the end of email providers, cutting out spam and fluff and stuff. But marketers have to be able to work with that. But email marketing is not dead. The basics of it, the long and short of it is that the barrier is higher.
Right.
You have to be better at it now.
Right.
Which is great, because when you are better at it, that means you have less competition.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think email seems to be a surprisingly self-policing domain. There's a lot of effort to keep quality up, despite the fact that there's no central command and control. And fortunately, I think life gets harder and harder for the really bad actors, the spammers, the high volume, turn and burn, the people who didn't realize you're not supposed to buy a list and send a million people something they didn't want to hear from you, and so on. Have you heard about the oncoming shift that Apple is making with email, and how that's likely to handle measurements?
Email specifically?
Yeah.
Fill me in.
Oh yeah. This will be good intel, and I'll be very curious about your sort of snap reaction. At their Worldwide Developer Conference in June, Apple was taking through the list of things coming down the pipe in iOS, and the one they mentioned about email that kind of went boom in the email sort of email marketing space is that Apple will be prefetching and anonymizing the IP for all image content in email, including pixels. So you will not have reliable, did this person open this message or not, if they're on an iOS device.
Now, I know that like with ads, we've already developed workarounds for Apple's actions there.
Yeah.
We with our clients, we use various tools to do server side tracking and things.
Yeah.
I am not as knowledgeable about emails. Do you see something like that evolving for emails?
Candid technical reaction is sort of one of the domain experts on this.
Mm-hmm.
No, for that immediate ping of the HTTP pixel request, gone is gone. And we spent pretty much 2 months straight beating the bejeepers out of the beta to see if there was a hole. You'll see a shift to measuring stuff that was more important in the first place, click-throughs, conversion, buys, purchases, that kind of stuff. But it's a rare email platform that doesn't have open rate somewhere near top of the page.
Yeah.
And come September, October, that measure is going to start to mean less and less and less. The real gurus in the space have said, look, it was always an indicator, not a super reliable statistic, but almost everybody treated it like it was.
Yeah.
It's like kind of the speedometer of campaigns, if you will. Yeah, and it's going to go. And the kind of insidious thing about it is that since what Apple's decided to do is just go ahead and load everything, everyone's open rate's going to go way up.
Yeah.
Right? Because close to 50% of email is opened on an iOS device.
Well, I imagine though that what this is going to cause is that we're going to just kind of stop looking at open rates, but we're going to look at metrics that are ultimately more relevant.
More relevant.
We're going to be looking at conversions. We're looking at and we can track it, and when like if you want to know, and this is this basic marketing, but if you want to know, did this email campaign create these conversions, or did this email campaign? Well, if we have two different targets for them, two different landing pages, then we can track that. I mean,
parameterize the URL, or something as simple as that. Yeah.
So we don't know the open rate, but we'll still know, is it working? That kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a well-known, well-respected industry guy named Chad White. He's at Oracle now. Was at Litmus for a long time, and he had a very thoughtful article about this last week. And he said he felt like Apple's decision kind of goes against the implicit social contract. I signed up for your list for your launch, and if I signed up, I'm saying yes, I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
And Chad's point was that the sort of conversational nod, okay, I haven't acted, but at least I read this, that feedback loop being taken out, does risk a lot of, we'll send more blindly because we don't have. It's like having a conversation on the phone versus face-to-face Zoom. I can see that you're nodding and agreeing, and you didn't speak, and we're losing that nod. And I don't think that opinion is going to change what Apple does, but it has made people start to think about this a little bit.
And my reaction to Apple, just in general as a marketer, is like, I can rant about them being evil or whatever. That's not going to do anything. But what I can do is evolve, and they're doing this. It's just like when Google updates their algorithm, it doesn't make SEO go away. The end result has been great for the internet, because there's a lot less trash on the internet now. There's a lot less stuff just out there just to fill it with keywords. There's people have to create better content now, and in the end, a lot of what Apple does is going to do the same thing. Not necessarily everything, but a lot of it, it's going to make life harder for marketers.
Yeah.
It's going to create a better internet in many ways, not necessarily all the time.
Yeah.
But it is also going to be giving Apple themselves more power, because that's why they do what they do. But we can still evolve. And that's the thing about barriers. When you put barriers in business, in any aspect of business, when you put in barriers, the people who can get over those barriers are the ones who are going to win, and everyone else, it's going to be even better for them than it would have been if there had been no barriers. Because it cuts out their competition.
Well, it's also the nature of the evolution of a frontier, to our earlier analogy. Is like, eventually have zoning and roads and right of way and barbed wire, and we're just we're gradually starting to do that in the digital wilderness as we realize that not everything is equally okay, and not everyone's going to act in the greatest interest of the greatest good, and so on. And I'm an Apple fan in many ways. I've got way too many Apple screens staring at me as I sit here. But it's pretty heavy-handed at the same time. And as someone who understands the technical pieces underneath it, I'm like, really? You had to pick on that? You couldn't think of something better to do? Come on. Oh well. Oh well. It will affect in the launch and digital marketing domain. I think one of the unanticipated side effects of that one's going to be that the conversational nod signal for things like triggered campaigns and marketing automation is like, it's not going to work, or it's not going to work the same way. And there's going to be a fair amount of, oh crap, like we had that wired up so that if someone opened these three, then this happened, and we don't know that, or now they're getting a bunch more because they always open. That's what the signal is going to say, is that they always open. Fascinating. Yeah, we didn't realize that privacy would be the edge and the frontier of this bold new world. Right? It's kind of unexpected. It looks natural now, but 20 years ago, no one was really saying a whole lot about it. Yeah. So what next for Wingfire? Where would you like to take what the company does? Maybe international. Kind of touched on that.
Yeah, that's a possibility. But what we're working on right now is we actually just recently did a launch of our own to our list, kind of shifting from a done for you service to more of a done with you service.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our first crop of done with you clients that we're working on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're looking to do with that is to kind of start people off more at that level, done with you. I mean, it costs them less, and we're able to provide value and also help. They can also learn while they're doing it, and in that way, it's very valuable to them. And then once they've been doing that for a certain amount of time, take them up into more of the done with you, the done with you level. So that's what we're working on right now. And also we're pushing harder to get more launch clients, because that's where we feel that we deliver the most value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're really, really good at. And that's where we can really differentiate ourselves.
So if you were, said there's, several thousand people hypothetically listening to us talk while they're driving or doing the dishes or something like that, like, what are some of the trigger things that make a really great fit customer for you? Is it someone who's just struggling, or they've tried launching and they've flopped, or they don't even know where to begin, or what? Like,
they should have a good idea of the problem they want to solve.
Mm-hmm.
And and ideally they should have already done a beta launch. Not necessarily.
Interesting.
That's not a necessity, but they should have already pitched to their email list. Mm-hmm. And gotten some people to buy it at like a lower price, and got that feedback there. But then they've done that, and so they have this good idea. They have a lot of clarity on what they want to provide. Mm-hmm. And they've gotten that feedback, helping them to really solidify that. And now they're looking for that inflection point.
Okay.
And that's what a launch does. That's what a launch brings. So yeah, there's people who have a good idea of, they have their offer put together. They've tested it. They maybe haven't gotten a whole lot of sales, but they've gotten some. Mm-hmm. And now they want to get a lot.
Okay. And you help them, since it's not done in 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
You help them put all the planning, plumbing, mechanisms in place before doing that, instead of building that while the numbers are dropping.
Yeah. So like as I said, we have, before we even start getting people registered for the webinar challenge that we use on our launches, we have them in launch campaign. In hype campaigns.
Yeah.
We're sending out hype messaging, and we do that for weeks to get people engaged, because it takes time to build that up. And we're also engaging people on social media platforms. A lot of time in that initial phase, for example, we'll run video ads for engagement. Mm-hmm. And then what we do with that is we can take that and create an audience, mm-hmm. because we create an audience from the people who watch the video. Right. And then we're able to follow up on that with our later messaging that's actually trying to get them to take action on registering for the event.
At the top.
Yeah. So
interesting. Yeah. Interesting. You're not going to get to stop learning in the niche that you've carved out for yourself.
Yeah. It's going to keep evolving. It's going to keep keep changing. I mean, it has already done that.
Yeah.
But just since we've been doing it, and it's going to keep happening.
Yeah. Good attitude, and that'll stand you in good stead, I think. You launched this 2016, did you say?
Yeah, we started in running ads for people in 2016. Yeah.
Okay. Did the sort of abrupt 6-10 year kick toward the future of the pandemic changed? What did that change most for you? Let me put it that way.
Well, see, it's interesting, because with our business, when the pandemic hit, we were already moving toward massive action. Mm-hmm. And so, such that I don't really know like exactly how the pandemic affected our business, because there were other factors that were affecting our business a lot.
You were headed there already. Yeah.
Because we had at that time, right when the pandemic was getting in full swing, that's when we were spending a lot of money on ads and getting a lot of clients, and so we really saw, we actually saw a significant in the darkest days, and when everyone was locked down, like we saw a significant upsurge in clients, and I think that would have happened even without the pandemic.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
I can't really say if it would have been more or less. I'm not really sure, but what I can say is that the pandemic didn't kill us for sure.
Yeah. Last question. Not everybody can work well with their spouse. Sounds like you're making it work. Any tips?
Well, it's very important to just do what your wife says.
Happy wife, happy life.
the long and the short of it is that she is one of the foremost people out there when it comes to ad campaigns, running ad strategies and ad campaigns and running ads. And she actually knows that a lot better than I do.
Oh, nice.
And,
wow.
We focus on different aspects of the business.
Yeah.
And I'm technically the CEO, but, she as the CMO of a marketing company, basically acts like the CEO a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Gotcha. Do you put some guardrails in place so that you stop talking business when you're away from the business? It's got to be hard.
There are no hard barriers, I would say.
Yeah.
There are times when either she or I will specifically say, okay, let's not talk business right now.
Yeah.
Like we definitely do that.
Yeah.
But we don't have any hard rules about okay, we only talk business between this hour and this hour. We don't really do that. Like we'll end up talking business like late at night, driving in the car.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. It's just it's a very normal thing.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, I don't run a business with my spouse. She said, there's no way I could stand to be around you that much. But having worked out of a home office for a long, long time, you get some habits and rhythms of knowing when to park it or when it's kind of, well, so how was your day? And fill me in on that. And that's actually a legitimate question kind of a thing. So, and everybody's going through that as we've changed the definition of office and work quite substantially. Yeah, helps to have a little physical space too. Like you mentioned that the door was shut. One of the kids wanted, at least having the door is a big deal, right? Yeah. Really useful thing at times.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure picking your brain and learning about what you're doing. I think it's wonderful, and it sounds like it's on the way up and a long ways to go yet.
Yeah, we're really excited. We know we can deliver a lot of value with launches. I mean, we have done it.
You have done it, and you know how to do it.
Now, we know how to do it, and so,
Is it wingfiremedia.com? Is that the URL?
Yeah, wingfiremedia.com.
Wingfiremedia.com. Well, cool. There you go. Well, we'll wrap on that one. My guest today has been Ronald Kimmons, co-founder, CEO of wingfiremedia.com. Ronald, thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.